Prospects lie. They just do. It's easier to lie than to just be really blunt about not wanting to talk to you because they don't like you, don't need your stuff, don't like your company, whatever it might be. Most buyers are not going to be like your typical New Yorker that's like in your face and not afraid to tell the truth. So what does this have to do with objection handling? Really, it's that, hey, when someone says not interested or send me an email, that's not really what they mean, nor what they are really objecting to. The key problem here is that most calls don't make it past the first 60 seconds, and buyers, you're going to get stuck if you accept their excuses. And I don't mean that you need to overpower every objection, but you need to be able to understand that when someone gives you an excuse for not wanting to talk any further within the first 30 to 60 seconds of meeting with them, they're not really objecting to you or what you're selling. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to deal with that. The second area that we see reps getting stuck is that they do get legitimate objections, like we're using a competitor. We don't have budget right now. We just signed, with XYZ competitor, and we don't have a great talk track, for overcoming those objections. So what I'm going to give you is a couple things. One, pattern recognition we're going to talk about, and that's grouping objections into buckets so that we can get really good at responding to different types of objections versus having to memorize 25 different scripted responses. We need to be great at pattern recognition. We need to be great at detecting instinctive objections versus calculated objections. We'll talk a little bit more about what those are. We're going to respond to those two types of objections in very different ways. And then once we validated what type of objection it is, we need to be really great at handling the objection in a way that gets the buyer to lean in. And that's using empathy. That's validation, right? It's being human and not trying to just overcome every single objection that we get. So what you're going to walk away from this module with is an objection handling framework that you can use for just about every objection that you're going to come across. Key point number one, pattern recognition. So the beauty of cold calling, like I said before, is it's pretty predictable. When someone picks up, the most likely thing to happen is that they're going to give us some sort of brush off. We call these instinctive objections. This is not interested, I'm busy, how'd you get my number, send me an email, like all of the normal things that we hear. This is 75% plus of the objections. When they give me an instinctive objection, what do they need from me in that moment to continue talking? And they need acknowledgement. They're not objecting to you or what you're selling, they're objecting to being cold called. So they need acknowledgement. We'll talk about what that sounds like here in a second. The second type of objection is calculated objections. So calculated objections, this typically happens later in the call, and these are a more legit objection that actually has some logic behind it. It's not just this emotional, visceral response. We already have a solution. No budget, not the right person, bad timing. Hey, we're under contract. We've already built this internally. What they need from you is the thing that we talked about in the offer module. They need to know what the value will be in return for spending time with you. What are they going to learn, even if they decide not to move forward with your solution? So instinctive objections, calculated objections. One needs acknowledgement. The other needs to know what value they are going to get in return for their time. The next part of this is the E.V.O framework. So before we talk about handling different types of objections, there's a common framework that we're going to apply across this. E.V.O stands for empathize, validate. The O stands for offer. Empathize, validate, offer. We're going to meet the objection with empathy, okay? The best way to do this is to think about, when someone says not interested, real quick, think to yourself, what's going on in their head? How are they feeling? Well, they're probably really surprised because they picked up the phone and they thought that you were someone else and they forgot that you're a salesperson right away. So they might be feeling a little bit irritated. They might be feeling like, dude, I'm really busy right now. They might be feeling impatient. So we want to be able to empathize and validate with that. It's simple acknowledgement. It could be nothing more than, hey, sounds like I caught you right in the middle of something. Or, hey, all good, no problem. Or, hey, I hear you. Any variation of that is going to work really well, okay? So key point number 2, handling instinctive objections. Let's talk about how to handle not interested, I'm busy, we're all set. I'm going to give you 2 types of responses. One is a more generic response. So this is something you could basically do in most situations when talking to buyers like this. The other is a more specific response that you really need in order to execute this effectively at the enterprise level. So the generic response might sound like this. Hey, all good, right? That's the E in the V. The offer, before I let you go. If there's any language that I suggest that you steal from this module, it's before I let you go. Everything here is very scripted so you can see the examples, but I don't want you to be thinking in scripts. I want you to be thinking in frameworks. But before I let you go is one of those things that I would definitely steal. Hey, before I let you go, we're hearing from finance leaders that compliance issues often stall growth. Is that something you're running into? Pretty simple, generic response. So if I've done some research, it might sound like this. All good, before I let you go, I noticed you just launched XYZ product in France and Italy. ABC Company's team was spending a lot of time in compliance that was getting in the way of growth. How does that compare to your situation right now? Are you experiencing that as well, or am I totally barking up the wrong tree here? Cool, so I'm going to bring something relevant into there. Let's talk about the next objection. I'm in a meeting right now. I'm about to head into a meeting. We're going to handle this in a very similar way. The generic response, all good, before I let you go. I am hearing from finance leaders that compliance issues often stall growth. Do you have a minute right now to see if this is relevant, or should we plan a chat later today after your meeting? So the key here is that I'm going to give them a choice. They're about to hop into a meeting right now. Do they want to talk right now while you have them on the phone, or should we talk later? I'm going to give them the choice, okay? The more specific response, the more tailored one we might do, hey, before I let you go, notice that you just launched this new product in France and Italy. We worked with a similar client that was experiencing compliance issues with this international expansion. Do you have a minute right now to see if this is relevant, or should I call you back after your meeting? The key idea here, do not leave that call without a calendared next step. So if they say, yeah, let's talk later, say, okay, cool. Well, how about 4 p.m.? I'll send you a 5-minute calendar hold. Next objection, how'd you get my phone number? So let's think about how the person's feeling. This feels like a total invasion of privacy to most people, right? How'd you get my phone number? How did you get my cell phone, right? It feels like such an invasion of privacy. So I'm a very big fan of just being pretty upfront and honest with how you got it. So you could say, hey, fair question. I actually got it from ZoomInfo. I can send you an email with details on removing yourself from their database if you'd like. Or you could blame it on your marketing team. Hey, fair question. I actually got it from our marketing team. I can let you know how to remove your number from our list after this call if you'd like. But the reason I called you specifically is because many finance teams are running into international compliance issues that often stall growth. Do you mind if I take a minute to see if this would be helpful for you at ABC Company? The more tailored response, the more specific one might sound like this. Hey, I got your info from ZoomInfo. Totally happy to send you an email on how to remove your name from their database after the call if you'd like. But I just noticed that you launched this new product in France and Italy, and a lot of XYZ competitors' time was spent on compliance, and it really stalled growth. You might have to take a minute to see if this would be helpful for you at ABC Company. Can you send me an email? So there's a couple of different components to this one, okay? Part 1 is we want to get more info. Part 2 is we're going to ask for the meeting. And then part 3, we need a way to throw out something if we get resistance, okay? So get more info. The idea here is we're going to agree and say that, yes, we will send an email, but between you and I, we know that they don't actually want to see the email, right? I think I can count the thousands of times I've done this, less than one hand, where someone actually responded to the email and I booked a meeting off of it. So I'm going to say something like this. Hey, so I can get you the best information. I'm curious, many finance teams and their CFOs run into tax compliance issues, and we just help them free up some of their team's time to avoid stalling international growth. I'm curious, with the recent expansion that you guys did in France and Italy, how have you been dealing with international compliance? How's that been going for you guys? So I kind of gave you a version there of something you could use that's very tailored as well. So part 2, what I'm hoping here in part 1 is I got them talking. So think about like getting them talking about some of the problems you mapped out on your messaging matrix. Now I'm going to ask for the meeting. Great. That's exactly what we've helped software teams like XYZ Company achieve, full tax compliance and growing sales by 20+%. Most of what I would email you, honestly, would be super generic, and I think you would find it more valuable if we looked at this through a lens that's really specific for your business. Do you have your calendar handy? And then book the meeting, right? If you can't book the meeting here, Okay, hey, no worries. How about we put 5 minutes on the calendar for tomorrow when you've had a chance to review the email? If you like what you see, we keep the meeting. If you don't, you cancel it. Sound cool? Perfect. So those are instinctive objections. Remember, the key here is they're objecting to being cold called. They need acknowledgement. Key point number 3, let's talk about how to handle calculated objections. So again, these calculated objections, these are more legit logic-driven objections. So the most common one you're probably going to run across is, hey, we already have a solution. We have a system for that. We have a provider. We use XYZ competitors. What you can prepare for this, what's really great to have is a list of 2 or 3 pros and cons for the competing solution or the other option. So what that might sound like is something like this. So someone's like, yeah, we already have a solution. Hey, I'm super glad to hear that managing payment workflows is a focus for it. Do you mind sharing more about the solution that you're using? And they may or may not be able to share that. Like in cybersecurity, I know that folks really don't like to share that stuff. So you might say, hey, great to hear that cybersecurity posture is really important for the team right now. I know I might be asking for a lot here, but I'm curious, can you share what solution you're using? So maybe acknowledge it a bit. And then the pros and cons, okay? So I might say something like, hey, with the recent expansion into Italy, some of our clients find that ABC competitor is very simple to set up, pro, but doesn't scale well as they add new countries, con. It doesn't keep up with tax, fraud prevention, etc. How are you thinking about the scalability of your current setup? So essentially the framework here is like, hey, awesome, glad to hear this is a focus for you. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about the solution? Okay, what do I know about the solution? Hey, oftentimes what we hear is that our clients like XYZ really like this about the solution, but here's something that they don't quite like. So your money questions that you came up with might inform a lot of the cons, by the way. And then how are you thinking about that? So pros and cons can work really, really well for folks that already have another solution. Pros, cons. Pricing. There's all kinds of different pricing objections that you're going to get. Everything from like, how much does this cost? How does your pricing model work, etc. When someone brings up pricing, here's an example of what we might do. Hey, fair question. Pricing really depends on your needs and what you're looking to accomplish. How about this? We're helping SaaS finance teams at companies like XYZ grow revenue by 20% while keeping margins healthy. What if we found a time to walk through your needs so I can get you accurate pricing? Do you have your calendar handy? All right. So basically what you're saying is like, I can't get you pricing, but I'm happy to talk with you and get you some custom pricing. If there are different pricing models. So for example, let's say you do usage-based pricing versus seat-based pricing. You might say, hey, totally fair question. We actually do pricing quite a bit different from what you've probably seen. We don't charge based on users, we charge based on usage. How about this? We're helping a ton of companies right now like XYZ, making sure that they can manage healthy margins and only pay for what they use. I'd like to get you some custom pricing. Do you have your calendar handy? So that's our pricing objection. Bad timing. Not a priority right now. We're in a transition state. We got our hands full. The key with this objection and the next one is we are going to use the objection as the reason for the meeting, okay? So you don't have time right now? Let's talk about how we can get some of that time back. That's how to handle this objection. Hey, totally understand. That's exactly why I reached out. A lot of the finance teams that we're working with right now run into international compliance issues, which I noticed that you guys just expanded into France and Italy, and it just eats up a ton of the team's bandwidth. How about this? What if I showed you some ways that we could help you and similar companies reduce the busy work and help you be more strategic with your time? Do you have your calendar handy? Boom, there we go. Budget. Again, we are going to use the objection as the reason for the meeting, okay? There's this line that I like to use. That's exactly why I called. I think this might be like an old school, like B2C, like telemarketer line or something, but it just rolls off the tongue so well. Hey, we don't have the budget. Budget's tight. That's exactly why I called. We're working with a lot of finance leaders right now around protecting margins and looking for every opportunity possible to consolidate their tools. How about this? Let's grab some time so I can show you how similar companies are reducing their tech and support costs. Do you have your calendar handy? So again, I'm using the objection as the reason for the meeting. We just went through all of your most common objections. I want you to leverage AI, or you can handwrite it yourself. Use the worksheet below to fill out common objection handlers so that you can get a head start on handling objections that are going to come up in your cold calls.